Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv. So, Matt, let's talk about the scene there for the protests. They were loud, boisterous the last hour. How about now?
Loud, still playing drums and instruments, still yelling every once in a while, chanting. We've been seeing on screens the faces of those 6 young people who, as you mentioned, were killed by Hamas right before they were found, or their corpses were found by the IDF in a tunnel underneath Rafah, just on the edge of the Gaza Strip. Now, it was the way in which that happened, which has really driven home to Israelis just how difficult the situation is going to be in terms of getting these hostages back if they don't get a hostage deal. Now, it was just last week that one hostage was rescued alive. Now, this was really one of the very few, and that's why Benjamin Netanyahu's constant refrain that military pressure on Hamas' continued incursion into the Gaza Strip is the best way to release or to free these more than 100 remaining hostages. It's really just falling on deaf ears here, especially with this crowd. They're tired of hearing this. An end. They want to see a compromise with Hamas, some sort of ceasefire deal, and as you mentioned, they are all laying blame squarely on the Prime Minister. I spoke with one of the protesters. Here's what we heard.
What happened yesterday, that we got people, 6 people that were alive a few days ago, dead. I think that it awoke, all the nation was awoken that we can't go on with this anymore.
Do you blame Netanyahu for the deaths of these 6 young people?
Yes, I do.
Really?
Yes, I do.
Why do you think he carries the blame?
Because if he would do the agreement between the Hamas, although we had to withdraw, we know it very good, it wouldn't have happened.
And so, Alex, this boisterous...
Guys, we are definitely having some trouble hearing Matt. Matt, if you can hear me, it's very staccato, your narration there. But for all of you, again, we've been watching this unfold for several hours. It's just past 9 p.m. there in Israel. It is a very loud crowd there with thousands packed in all morning. The death of those 6 young people that were killed in that tunnel in Rafah, underneath Rafah there, right near the edge of the Gaza border, as Matt was describing. And again, there's a lot of anger right now being garnered directly toward Benjamin Netanyahu as a result. We'll try and get Matt straightened out, and we'll check in with him again next hour as well. But we're going to go now to NBC's Gabe Gutierrez, who's at the White House. So, Gabe, how is the administration reacting to the death of these hostages?
Hi there, Alex. Good afternoon. Well, both President Biden and Vice President Harris just said that they'd spoken to Hirsch Goldberg Poland's parents. The vice president posting on social media, "My heart breaks for their pain and anguish as they mourn this terrible, terrible loss. They are not alone. Our nation mourns with them." President Biden overnight saying he is devastated and outraged. In a written statement, he said the news is as tragic as it is reprehensible. Make no mistake, Hamas leaders will pay for these crimes, and we will keep working around the clock for a deal to secure the release of the remaining hostages. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is set to hold a virtual meeting with families of the American hostages that remain in Gaza, Alex.
Okay. Let me ask you about the new fallout today as well, Gabe, over Donald Trump's appearance at Arlington National Cemetery last week. What are we hearing from the White House today?
Well, Vice President Harris called Arlington National Cemetery a solemn place and not the place for politics. That statement out yesterday. And she went on to say, "Let me be clear, the former president disrespected sacred ground, all for the sake of a political stunt." And this all comes after the Trump campaign posted that highlight video on TikTok showing Mr. Trump laying a wreath in honor of the service members killed at the Abbey Gate bombing in Afghanistan 3 years ago and posing with some of their family members. In an interview with NBC News this past week, the former president said he knew nothing about the video. And in a rally Friday, he said he did not use the graves for public relations. President Biden was asked about the controversy, though, this weekend. And here was his response.
Mr. President, what do you think of President Trump's behavior at Arlington Cemetery with the visit to the fallen soldiers?
I don't want to answer things. I may tell you what I think.
president not taking the bait there. Now, former President Trump, meanwhile, posted on social media a series of videos from families of those who were killed in Afghanistan, criticizing the Biden-Harris administration.
Yeah,
Alex?
he sure did. Okay, Gabe Gutierrez, thank you for that. Let's go back to the scene in Tel Aviv right now. Joining me, we have Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State and Democratic strategist. Joel, we're showing people live pictures right now, 9:06 p.m. there in Tel Aviv. Tell me how the news about the murder of these 6 hostages complicates efforts for a hostage and ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel.
Well, Alex, it's great to be with you on this horrible, horrible day.
Yeah.
There's really no worse human behavior than execution of an innocent hostage. And that's what we're now seeing the fallout respond to. The anger is real. It complicates negotiations from the perspective of making it more urgent, if anything, not making it harder. But I think, all of Israel right now is in deep mourning. People I'm reaching out to who are engaged in these hostage efforts are devastated. Clearly, Hirsch, as an American, also adds another layer of pain here in the United States. I think that this is a real strategic moment for the Prime Minister to decide how he wants to accelerate, or that is, advance this war going forward. He's really at a fork in the road on some key decisions, and the crowd that you're seeing right now is likely to grow because of what we just witnessed.
Yeah, 100%. Joel, it feels like there's a visceral reaction to this from people around the world. I have gotten a number of communiques from people, I should say, but it's almost as if these young people, these 6, they survived these 11 months in likely deplorable conditions, only to be killed shortly before the IDF was able to rescue them. We do not know the circumstances of it. We do believe, according to reporting, that they were shot. But there's something about that these kids were survivors for this long, only to end so tragically in these tunnels under Rafah.
Yeah, Alex, it's a horrible story. I mean, the whole war is a horrible story. But this episode, this is horrific. According to reporting and people I'm talking to, not only did these 6 young people survive underground, living in hell for more than 10 months after being kidnapped from a rave, from a festival, a peace festival, but they were murdered as the IDF was getting near underground to freeing them. And so the level of evil that Hamas demonstrates in this is clear, but that should also be part of the calculation. It's clear that Hamas does not have any military leverage in these ceasefire negotiations. They're devastated and decimated. Gaza has been leveled, quite frankly. But what they do have are the hostages, and that's all they have. They're willing to execute the hostages in cold blood if it looks like the Israeli defense forces are about to free them. So this is a real moment for the Prime Minister to look squarely in the eye of the Israeli people and say what his priorities are. Will he move to try to get these released? Because we know what the alternative is, as we just saw with these horrific executions.
Well, that's what he should do, but do you believe he will do that, Joel? I mean, I asked a question, and I'm going to say it was somewhat cynical of nature, but the reality is many have suggested if Benjamin Netanyahu keeps this war going, he maintains power. And when this war ends, God willing, as soon as possible, that most Israelis want him out of office. So will he communicate directly and honestly with the Israeli people on his plans and what he intends to do to bring about the end of the war, bring a ceasefire about, bring the rest of these hostages home, dead and alive?
Alex, one would more than forgive you for being cynical on this question. As we heard from the interview, and as is pretty evident, Prime Minister Netanyahu is afraid of losing power, not only because he would lose power, but because it would then set in a process where he could go forward in the cases, or the justice, wheels of justice in Israel go forward in their cases against him and put him at risk. And so he has 2 impediments to moving forward on a deal from a domestic perspective. First is this justice, these cases against him on corruption. The second is holding his right flank together to keep him in power. And the right flank is opposed to a deal. They believe that any arrangement with Hamas would empower Hamas. That's not where the Israeli Defense Forces are. There was this scene a couple of days ago, apparently in the cabinet meeting, where the defense minister, Yoav Gallant, no dove by any standard, argued with Netanyahu in front of the cabinet that they needed to move forward on a deal and that hostages would die if they did not. And Gallant was shouted down and defeated in a small vote in the cabinet by the right-wing ministers. So, Netanyahu's holding on for his political life. And the question now is, will Israeli democracy force him and Gallant and other Likud ministers to say that enough is enough? And again, I do want to go back to the point, which is that this is Hamas at its worst, but this is what we know about Hamas. So this is really a question of Netanyahu's decision based upon the reality of the depravity and the savageness of Hamas.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, he is meeting virtually today with the families of the remaining American hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. I will say I spoke with Jeremy Bash in the last hour, who said that there is a confirmation of those 7 remaining. 3 are dead, but 4 are still alive. At least that's what they have intelligence to believe at this point. Last weekend, Rachel, the mother of American-Israeli Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who was among the 6 hostages found dead, spoke with MSNBC about their frustration over the lack of info given to hostage families. Take a listen, Joel.
We kind of live in this parallel universe that many people can't begin to imagine. We ourselves can't begin to imagine, and we're in that universe where our only son has been missing for these 324 days, and we've had one time that we've seen him, and it was for a 2-minute video where he was reading a script. So it's really a very torturous and anxiety-riddled existence.
Can't imagine. But what more can the United States do to get the hostages home, Joel?
You know, Alex, I first want to comment. My daughter is in college. If I go a couple hours without hearing back from her, if I reach out, it causes me stress. I can't even begin to contemplate how horrible that is for the families. There's no way to express words of empathy for them. What the U.S. can do is to continue to pressure, as we're doing publicly, to push our Arab allies to sit on Hamas and to do what the president and the vice president are doing, which is constantly calling for a ceasefire, for a hostage deal. There is an ongoing negotiation. They're always a failure until the day that they succeed. And that has to be the vision. This is a moment, though, also for the Israeli public to do what it is doing, which is to step up. And the United States, we can leverage that public pressure in Israel, I believe, to continue to make the case to the prime minister that it is in his personal political interest as well to achieve a ceasefire. That pressure is essential. The United States plays a key role in that regard.
Okay, Joel Rubin, I'm glad to have you on the show, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much, though hopefully under more pleasant circumstances. Let's go now, everyone, to Decision 2024 with 65 days to Election Day. Now on the campaign trail today, Governor Tim Walz was out pressing the flesh at the Minnesota State Fair, and a new ABC News Ipsos poll shows Vice President Kamala Harris slightly leading Donald Trump within the margin of error among registered voters and with a larger lead among likely voters. Even with a slight polling edge, a new Harris campaign memo warns Democrats that they are entering the final stretch of the race for the White House as underdogs. A New York Times characterizes the underdog warning as a wink. But while on the Sunday talk shows, surrogates for both sides turn their attention to VP Harris's first sit-down interview.
Kamala Harris has already shown that she is trying to move away from her record, move away from her positions, and how that contradicts the positions and statements that she is making now that she is the Democratic nominee.
Let's compare a situation where someone changed their position 4 years ago to Donald Trump, who's changed his position 4 times on abortion in the last 48 hours.
Well, tomorrow, VP Harris will attend Labor Day celebrations in Detroit, and President Biden will join her for a campaign event in Pittsburgh, PA. Tuesday, Democrats kick off a reproductive freedom bus tour. That'll be in battleground states, but it starts in Trump's hometown, Palm Beach, Florida.
Well, the president's been very clear. He does not support a nationwide abortion law. But President Trump has been consistent, is that there's not going to be a nationwide abortion law while he's president.
We embark on this bus tour on Tuesday in Florida and travel over 50 states because reproductive freedom and autonomy of our own bodies and making sure that women don't continue to have that torn away is absolutely essential.
Later on this hour, we're going to talk about all these developments and some interesting perspective on the looming debate with strategist Shaniqua McClendon and Ashley Pratt-Oates, and also unpack what's fueling the Kamala Harris momentum with Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. And again later, more. The new calls for Kamala Harris to make a date with the Sunday talk shows. We're back in 90 seconds.
Chase really knows how to put the heart in your local community. See what I did there? Hey, Jackie. Evan, my guy. You helping him with savings, right? I wish I had somebody like Evan when I started. Somebody just got their first debit card. Ice cream on you? Ooh, tacos. I got you. Wait, hold on. Don't you owe me money? What? Your money is a part of your community, so your bank should be too, like Chase.
Here's to getting better with age.
Cheers to beating these two every Thursday.
Help fuel today with Boost High Protein. Complete nutrition you need and the flavor you love. So here's to now. Now available Boost Max.
St. Jude, they gave it 110% every time. And for Kennedy to get treatment here without having to pay anything was amazing.
I still love to surf, snowboard, and of course skate. So I take Cunol Magnesium to support my muscle and bone health. Cunol's extra strength, high absorption magnesium helps me get the full benefits of magnesium. Cunol, the brand I trust.
With MyQ, home is just a touch away. MyQ is the only smart home security solution that provides video monitoring, real-time notifications, and lets you decide who comes in and who stays out. All in one easy-to-use app.
New reaction today from lawmakers over the tragic deaths of 6 hostages in Gaza. Members of Congress from opposite sides of the aisle sparring over the policy decisions they say led to the hostages' deaths. Some blaming the failure to strike a ceasefire deal. Others saying the Biden administration's restraints on Israel has prevented them from winning the war.
The hostage families themselves are saying that Netanyahu needs to actually be in the negotiation. Gallant, his own defense minister, has criticized Netanyahu in the cabinet for saying that the Fidelfi corridor, that Netanyahu is not willing to withdraw troops there as Egypt and the United States want. So I hope there's going to be pressure on Hamas and Netanyahu to end this war, release the hostages.
These hostages were discovered in the tunnels under Rafah. That's where Joe Biden and Kamala Harris put pressure on Israel not to enter for months, used an arms embargo to try to keep them from entering.
Joining me now is Massachusetts Congressman Jake Auchincloss. Awfully good to have you on the show. Thanks for joining me, Congressman. So I first want to get your response to the devastating news about the murder of 6 hostages in Gaza. What message do you want to send to their families? And how much more imperative do their deaths make it to reach a ceasefire deal?
Alex, thanks for having me back on. I think there were a lot of Israelis and Americans who had a hard time sleeping last night. I certainly did. It's devastating to know that these 6 hostages were murdered in cold blood with their rescue imminent. And I mourn with the families of all 6 hostages, and particularly the family of Hirsch Goldberg Pullen, who I was able to sit down with, both of his parents, and their courage in how they conducted themselves, living a nightmare, I think needs to be a example for Americans for the kind of resolve that we need to demonstrate to get all the hostages home, whether through military force or through diplomacy. It needs to remain the critical imperative of Israel's military operations in Gaza.
What are you hearing currently from your constituents about the war in Gaza? What are they saying about what the candidates running for president would do regarding the war and how it might affect their vote in November?
The constituents that I represent support Israel's right to defend itself. I think they're distrustful of Prime Minister Netanyahu. They're distrustful about his ability, one, to disentangle his own political interests from the greater good of the Israeli nation, and two, they're distrustful of his ability to execute a strategy in Gaza that truly marginalizes Hamas and returns the hostages. And the reason I say that is it is not sufficient to defeat Hamas through military might alone. That is one element of it. But ultimately, what Sinwar fears is not destruction, but reconstruction. An alternative to Hamas in Gaza, Palestinian-led, Arab-supported, Western-backed, would ultimately be what prevents Hamas from ever governing again in Gaza. That is the true extinction level event that Sinwar fears, and that is what we must bring to bear.
Interesting there. Let's talk about the Harris campaign because it is riding an incredible wave of momentum with an astonishing surge in new voter registration since she ascended to the top of the ticket. But what are you hearing from folks in your district about her campaign? And are they seeing the energy that's transformed into organizing and getting out the Harris Walls vote on Election Day?
Yes, night and day, unbridled enthusiasm. And the numbers back that up. During the week of the convention, I think it was $82 million raised. A third of those donations came from first-time donors. That's a big number. 2/3 came from women. Teachers and nurses were the most common occupations of the donors. This is a grassroots momentum. And partly it goes all the way back to what Nikki Haley said earlier in this campaign. She said the first party that changes the top of its ticket is going to win this thing. And Democrats did, Republicans didn't. So now Donald Trump looks around and he's got J.D. Vance, and we have joy and momentum and unity. And that's a winning contrast.
Yeah, Nikki Haley did say that and may be turning out to be prophetic. Let's talk about Harris's interview this past week, where she was asked about some of her policy reversals since she first ran for president back in 2020. She previously supported Medicare for all, as well as a ban on fracking. Now she doesn't. She once argued against criminalizing illegal border crossings. She now says, quote, there should have to be consequences. She said while defending these policy positions that her values have not changed. What is your assessment of that answer? Should she provide more clarity? Does she need to?
I think policy clarity is always helpful in presidential campaigns, and American voters rightfully want to dig into an agenda. But Kamala Harris, I think, is absolutely right on that her values has not changed. She wants health care for all. That's why she's pushing for Medicaid expansion, for example. That's why she's pushing for Affordable Care Act protections and expansion, and is not ideological about how we implement that. That's actually exactly what I want to see in statesmen, is the ability to have bedrock principles and then take in opinions from both ideological allies and people who disagree and synthesize those into a new policy agenda. This is a complicated country with a complicated economy. Goodness knows healthcare is complicated. Goodness knows energy is complicated. Immigration, same thing. We should be digesting new ideas. That's very different than what Donald Trump does. What Donald Trump does is he puts his finger up in the air, figures out what's popular in that given moment, and just says something that is totally void of substance, as we saw with the IVF announcement.
Okay. Congressman Jake Auchincloss, always good to see you. Come back and see me again soon. Thank you. So they're part of her story, but she's not playing them up. The two things Kamala Harris is not drawing attention to, and why, as she runs for president.
Sometimes Jonah wrestles with falling asleep, so he takes ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, and wakes up feeling like himself. Get the rest to be your best with non-habit-forming ZzzQuil. Better days start with ZzzQuil nights.
My hair was thinning all around my hairline.
My dermatologist recommended Nutrafol. It's 100% drug-free and clinically tested.
My hair is longer, thicker.
Nutrafol is life-changing for me.
Get growing at Nutrafol.com.
To avoid digital threats, just turn on NordVPN. Improve your protection against trackers, malicious websites, and malware-ridden downloads. Get the deal now.
Summer's burning heat is here. And for many animals, help can't come fast enough.
These animals are suffering from rays of sun that they can't escape. They don't have access to any shelter or shade. They're licking the bottom of bowls that have been dry for days. These animals are dying from heat.
For many animals across the country right now, the suffering is excruciating and time is running out.
There are animals wasting away under the hot sun, no access to shelter, no access to fresh water. They are suffering.
Will you help an animal who's suffering in the burning sun right now? Visit this website, call or scan the code on your screen. Your gift of just $19 a month can be the difference between life and death for an animal this summer.
There are situations in which an animal will lay down and they will give up because that honestly is their better escape from this reality.
And that's why we can't give up and why we need you right this minute before it's too late. 63 cents a day will provide shelter, water, and loving care to an animal who may not survive much longer. Say yes to pulling an animal out of the burning heat today. Join with your monthly gift in the next 5 minutes, and we'll send you this welcome kit and one-of-a-kind t-shirt.
We know it's our responsibility to give them that shelter as soon as possible, to get them that water, to give them that chance to survive.
So please, don't wait another second. Help rescue an animal today. Go online, call, or scan right now.
With Click Eyewear, say goodbye to losing your readers and hello to convenience.
Click readers feature strong front connection magnets, so I don't have to worry about misplacing or damaging them.
Click glasses are always there when you need them.
If you're over 50, imagine you could turn back the clock on your stiff, achy joints 10, even 20 years. Imagine you could do this without products that just temporarily hide the symptoms. Imagine no more. Instaflex Advanced. Get a complimentary sample just by texting knee to 231231. Instaflex Advanced is different because it targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness. It doesn't just cover up symptoms. Instead, it bathes your joints in its unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients found in no other product. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies. Instaflex Advanced is so powerful, you could have better knees in just 1 week. Maybe that's why it's #1 at GNC. But you can only get your complimentary sample by texting knee to 231231. Plus, text now and we'll include a tube of Instaflex pain cream with its exclusive oxygenated oil for fast-acting relief from the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles, absolutely free. Text KNEE to 231231.
Tomorrow, Vice President Kamala Harris is spending her Labor Day in Detroit and Pittsburgh, hitting critical states this week as Election Day nears, with early voting starting this month in 4 states. Meanwhile, allies are praising her after her first national interview on Thursday as the nominee.
I think she came off with confidence, calmness, and non-defensiveness. And I hope she'll do more of these interviews. I actually agree with your predecessor, Chuck Todd, that she should go on these weekly shows. She's very competent, and as running for president, have her views out there and take the hard questions.
Joining me now, Shaniqua McClendon, Vice President of Political Strategy at Crooked Media, and political commentator Ashley Pratt-Oaks. Good to see you both again. So, Ashley, the new ABC Ipsos poll has Harris up 52 to 46% with likely voters. It's Labor Day weekend. We're in the final stretch now. Any concern that Harris could be hitting a peak? I mean, how does she keep this momentum going?
So I think one thing that's really important to point out here is that it doesn't matter, I don't think, that she didn't have that post-convention bump. She has remained consistent and steady in polling, and she's maintained a lead over Trump nationally and in most of the critical swing states. So while it is still very close and there is no real clear leader at this point, her campaign is now pivoting to call this an underdog campaign, which is super smart for a couple of reasons. They will be able to keep that momentum and enthusiasm going, not only with donors and the Democratic base, which is necessary for cash funds and flow to keep advertising and operations going, but because of the fact that they need to get people to the polls. And with early voting beginning this month, as it was just noted, it's important to remember that this enthusiasm needs to keep going for the next, 65 days. So I think it's a really smart strategy right now to showcase that this is not going to be a landslide election, and that even though momentum is on her side, it needs to keep going in order for her to be able to win and to defeat Trump in November.
So let me pick up on that with you, Shaniqua, because this underdog position, the face of change, that is a repeated mantra in a new campaign memo today. Will that keep being effective, though? How does she balance that with emphasizing her experience?
Yeah, I think they're right to continue to call her an underdog. It's a smart strategy, but it's also true. If we look back to 2016, Hillary Clinton was polling ahead and she lost. There was a lot of assumptions made, and Democrats definitely don't want to do that again. In 2020, Joe Biden won by tens of thousands of votes in a handful of states. And so it was really close, despite people, a lot of people thinking that it shouldn't have been that close. And, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton are all household names when they ran. Vice President Harris is still someone that the country is getting to know, and she hasn't had as much time as most candidates, probably all candidates, have had in introducing themselves to the voters. But something else that's worth noting is we've only had one sitting vice president actually be elected to the presidency, so that alone also makes her an underdog. She's a woman. She's a Black woman, so of course she's the underdog. I think our country's history already shows us that.
What about the post-convention bump with women, Ashley? Because before Chicago, it was 51 to 45% in favor of Harris. Now look at it, 54 to 41%. Her margin has more than doubled. Even in 2020, white women went slightly more for Trump. But could this now be the pivotal change in this election?
I think so, and I think this is why you're seeing Trump and Vance really scramble over how to pivot here when it comes to abortion. I mean, Trump has consistently taken credit for overturning Roe and putting the justices on the Supreme Court who did that. So now we're going to flip-flop and say, oh, well, I don't know. And then basically now say that we're going to fund IVF through whether it be the government or through mandating it via insurance. Which, I'm sorry, but if you're going to put Supreme Court justices onto the court who are going to question and consistently question the legality of women's reproductive freedoms, this is going to do nothing. So women are not going to be gaslit. They're not going to be conned. They're not going to fall into this trap that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are putting out there. And having a woman at the top of the ticket on the Democratic side is definitely going to continue that momentum among female voters. Trump really has zero chance at trying to get that suburban female voter back. That did, I think at one point back in 2016, maybe tip the scales a little bit in his favor, but now they seem to be fully in Kamala Harris's camp, which is a good thing. It's not just a never Trump vote. It is a vote for change, and it is a vote for freedom, which is exactly what was, I think, portrayed at the DNC, and women completely understood that messaging and understood that it's our body, our choice, and our right and our future. And that's exactly where messaging is spot on by the Democrats right now.
So, Shaniqua, there's a New York Times opinion piece which discussed how Harris is not calling attention to the racial and gender barriers that she's breaking, but letting the obvious speak for itself. Carol Moseley Braun, the first Black woman in the Senate who ran for president back in 2004, said this: nobody wants to hear, I'm the first, I'm the first, I'm the first. What they want to hear is what you're going to do for them. Do you think that has been the secret to Harris's success, making this about voters, not about her, which, of course, begs this question: is Donald Trump remotely capable of doing that?
Yeah, no, he is not capable of not making it about himself. And he's not even capable of not making it about Kamala Harris's race or gender. But I think we are seeing that he's continued to talk about, her gender and race, and it's not helped him. So, it's smart on her not to focus on that. We can see that she's a woman of color. We can see that she's of color and a woman. But what people want to hear from her is, what are her policies? What is she running on? How does she serve as an alternative to Donald Trump? We've already seen Donald Trump in the presidency, and she's able now to focus on making a contrast. We've had a Black president before. We've had a woman nominee before. again, she doesn't need to focus on that for the rest of us to know that it's true. It's something that makes me really excited to be working to help her get elected, but it's not something I feel like I need to focus on when we're talking to voters and trying to get them turn out.
Let me ask you about this, Shaniqua, because Harris is preparing for her debate with Donald Trump. That's a week from Tuesday. We've learned that she's really aiming to get under Trump's skin. And I spoke with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett about that yesterday. Here it is.
She wants to appear as if she is the adult in the room, and she is. What we will see is this whining child who will sit there and won't give direct answers and honestly will distract and be a bumbling fool. We've seen it on the trail when he starts talking about, wind, and he starts complaining about sharks. I mean, the guy is really weird and off his rocker.
Will Harris be able to call attention to Trump's lies and his rambling word salads in a way that Joe Biden couldn't?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching for that exact reason. You know, we all know that the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden is why Joe Biden is no longer running for president. And now everyone wants to see how will Vice President Harris measure up to Donald Trump in a debate. But I think most voters already believe that Vice President Harris is going to win, and namely because when he lies, she's going to be able to point that out immediately and not have to wait for fact checkers to come around after. She can point out the lie right there, and he'll, hopefully be pressed by moderators on it and have to respond to it. And we know he's going to lie. He's also very undisciplined. As the Congresswoman said, he, is going to bumble through things. He's going to be incoherent, and Vice President Harris will seem like the adult in the room. So it'll be a really great opportunity for, voters to be able to see how do these two compare to each other standing side by side on stage. And we already know that Donald Trump cannot really control himself around women in other parts of his life, but definitely in this election. We saw in 2016 how he was around Hillary Clinton, and I think we're going to see the same thing again.
Okay, Ashley, I'm going to presume that you agree, but give you the final word on this.
Yeah, I think she's going to completely wow us on that debate stage. She is not only such an articulate speaker, but a great debater. And we really saw that come through in the 2020 presidential elections as well. So I think we're really going to see her shine in this particular venue, especially as she tries to combat a lot of Trump's lies.
Okay. Shaniqua, Ashley, it's good to see you both. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The controversy surrounding a big party this week at one of Donald Trump's golf courses and how it could hurt him legally. Next.
When you're a small business owner, your to-do list can be a lot. That's why Progressive makes it easy to save with a commercial auto quote online, so you can take on all your other to-dos.
Already did.
See if you could save at progressivecommercial.com.
Got a little serious for a moment. Okay.
What's with the what?
Without Easter seals, my Luke would be a very different Luke.
Look up. Where are you going?
There's an incredible urgency to get your child into services because the longer you wait, these motor pathways are set in stone. I knew he needed help. He needed these services.
I'm almost there.
Yes, you are. You're so close. You're so strong.
I'm gonna say hi.
Okay, let's say hi.
None of my friends or people in our network have a child with these needs. And then you go to Easter Seals, and it's such a good feeling to feel like you're in good hands. They really understand what you're going through.
At one point, I wasn't able to walk or ride my bike. The little things that other people take for granted that I need help with. Sometimes those are hard because you don't want help, but you need it.
But children can't get the help they need without support from people like you. Go online, call this number, or scan this code and donate just $19 a month.
These children deserve access to care and they need help. And if the funding's not there, it's hard to reach every single family.
So please visit this website, call or scan now. It's just 63 cents a day to provide life-changing services to these children.
You are literally creating an opportunity for this child to grow and to be an independent, successful adult.
Join now, and we'll send you this one-of-a-kind t-shirt with our heartfelt thanks.
To reach into your heart and see what your donation can do for these kids.
It really does make a difference. You're helping kids believe in themselves.
Go online, call or scan now to change a child's life forever.
With MyQ, home is just a touch away. MyQ is the only smart home security solution that provides video monitoring, real-time notifications, and lets you decide who comes in and who stays out. All in one easy-to-use app.
The best thing I've ever worn, the Liftwear tank from Honeylove. I've been wearing this for the past week and a half or so. I haven't worn a bra since. Ever since I got it, I was like, oh my gosh, where has this been my whole life? Not only does it lift me up, it's comfortable. It feels like I'm wearing a sports bra. And what I love about the Liftwear tank is that the major support is right where I need it, which is right in my lower tummy. It's so nice to finally have something that has full support all the way down. I feel like every woman out there needs this.
Try risk-free. Free returns on all orders.
Flamingo. Meet the tool specially designed to remove women's facial hair. This dermaplane razor sweeps away peach fuzz and exfoliates skin, leaving it looking brighter and feeling smoother, creating an even canvas for makeup and skincare application. Your hair won't grow back thicker. Plus, a Luxe refillable metal handle means that you can unlock smoother, more radiant-looking skin again and again.
Level up your skincare routine. Flamingo Dermaplane Razor. My body and mind.
Available at shopflamingo.com/face.
43 past, and giving you a look at right now is what has happened in Tel Aviv. We are seeing those thousands and thousands of people that had gathered in protest to the killing of these 6 young Israeli hostages in Gaza, one of whom an Israeli American. We're now seeing the demonstrations spill into the streets. We've been watching roads that were just crowded, cluttered with cars at a standstill, thousands on the streets. This is one perspective. We're going to go at the top of the hour back to Matt Bradley there in Tel Aviv to get a full comprehensive reporting on what's happening there, and we'll do that at the top of the hour. Meantime, Donald Trump, he is facing new backlash for a January 6th fundraiser that will be held at his golf club this Thursday. The Stand in the Gap Foundation has invited Trump to be a part of their J6 gala at his National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, but it's unclear if Trump will attend. The money raised will help pay the legal fees of those prosecuted for their roles in the Capitol riot. Yesterday, I spoke with the former lead investigator of the January 6th Select Committee, Tim Hafey, who said Trump's affiliation with the event is not a good personal or legal decision.
It aligns him in terms of his intent, Alex, with their actions, which could be directly relevant evidence of his intent in the pending criminal cases. It is not only morally wrong for him to be defending the actions of these people that have been convicted of crimes, some violent crimes and assaults on police officers, but it practically hurts his legal defense.
Let's bring in Steve Bannon, MSNBC political contributor and producer for The Rachel Maddow Show. He is also the author of the new book, Ministry of Truth, Democracy, Reality, and the Republicans' War on the Recent Past. It is number 13 on the New York Times bestseller list for hardcover nonfiction. Big congrats to you, Steve. I'm glad we were able to have you on the show to talk about the book. But let's get to this. I'm curious what exactly this event is on Thursday, and what is the controversy around it?
Well, the controversy, I think, stems from the larger pattern. You know, this is a situation in which Donald Trump participated in 2 fundraisers for January 6th convicts as recently as last summer, one in June and one again in July. Now we have this week coming up. There'll be a third fundraiser at a Trump-owned property. Now, there's some question as to whether or not the former president will be there, but either way, we see this pattern where he's showing his support by either having it or being there for these events, as in addition to the fact that it comes just 3 weeks after Donald Trump said at a public event that he was prepared to pardon January 6 convicts who participated in the violence and had direct violence against police officers. So this larger context creates an ugly scene for the former president as his campaign continues.
So, Steve, first of all, who are the organizers and why would they choose Trump's Bedminster Golf Club as the backdrop? Why would Donald Trump allow them to do so? You heard Tim Hafey there in that soundbite. This could present some kind of legal entanglement that he shouldn't want to encourage.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that it's important to emphasize that when it comes to January 6 convicts, right now there is a growing movement on the right to see them as heroes, to see them as victims. In fact, Donald Trump himself has referred to them many times as hostages. And so I think it's no real surprise that given that we have their supporters, the criminal supporters, the rioters' supporters, have chosen a Trump-owned property for the symbolic value. They could have a fundraiser anywhere, but they didn't. They chose a Trump-owned property in order to kind of emphasize this connection between Donald Trump and the rioters and their attorneys, their defense counsel. And so I think that combination is not an accident. It's not subtle. It's intended to convey to the audience and to convey to donors who might be willing to support these folks that they're all part of one big happy family.
So the fact that he's been invited, his picture's on the invitation, so even if he doesn't show up, and we don't know if he's going to or not, some have suggested he will not, but I mean, he's part of this. He can't escape that, right?
That's exactly right. In fact, he's made January 6 rioters a key part of his campaign. I mean, he's talked about not only financially supporting them, but offering them pardons in the event that he's elected president for a second term. And so really the idea that he could somehow separate himself from the January 6 rioters at this point is ridiculous because he's made it impossible for himself to do so.
So backlash. What kind of backlash is out there and this whole J6 gala in general, and who's creating the backlash?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump's many critics have seized on this as a great example of his indifference to the rule of law and his indifference to criminal statutes as it relates to his own political allies. And so they're really seizing on this, not only from the Democratic Party, but from the Harris campaign and others who are really seizing on this as an opportunity to label him as someone who's sympathetic to violent criminals, who in fact is prepared to let those violent criminals out of prison if given a second chance in the White House. And so I think that the backlash is real, and I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that in the coming weeks and months ahead of the election, which is just 9 weeks from tomorrow.
Sure is. Well, that's good, though. We'll get to see more of you, Steve Bannon. Thank you so much. So from east to west, north to south, millions got away for the last big holiday weekend of the summer. But next, how some Americans are celebrating and what lies ahead for the road home.
Borderie ships the only fully arranged cheese and charcuterie boards nationwide, so you can make hosting stress-free, perfect for hosting a party or celebrating a birthday. With boards for every occasion, Borderie is guaranteed to impress. Order today at Borderie.com.
For the most comfortable, luxurious, eco-friendly, and affordable, handcrafted American-made mattresses on the market today. Delivered and set up in any room of your house. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
Shopping, working, and relaxing online can attract various digital threats. To improve your protection against them, just turn on NordVPN. This cybersecurity app will block web trackers and malware-infected sites. It will also encrypt your internet traffic without losing a smooth connection. Choose the VPN recommended by Forbes Advisor. Get the deal now. NordVPN. Cybersecurity built for every day.
Rise up this morning. Smile with the rising sun. This is my best.
Sandals Jamaica sale is now on. Visit sandals.com or call 1-800-SANDALS.
Bounce back fast from heartburn with Tums Gummy Bites and love food back.
Who's coming in the driveway?
Goodness. My daughter is being treated for leukemia.
I hope that she lives a long, great, happy life, and that she will never forget how Mom and Daddy love her. St. Jude, I mean, this is what's keeping my baby girl alive.
This September, you can join the battle to save lives during Childhood Cancer Awareness Month by supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. For just $19 a month, you'll help us continue the life-saving research and treatment these kids need now and in the future.
Cancer makes me feel angry, like not in the, feel on the outside, just the inside I'm angry at it.
When your kid is hurting and there's nothing you can do about it, that's the worst feeling in the world.
1 in 5 children diagnosed with cancer in the U.S. will not survive.
Those that donate to St. Jude, I hope that you will continue to give. They have done so much for me and my family.
Join with your debit or credit card now, and we'll send you this St. Jude t-shirt that you can proudly wear.
Están salvando vidas. Y la vida de mi hija es una de ellas.
You ready to go have some fun?
When we came here, we didn't know what tomorrow would hold. St. Jude showed us that tomorrow there's hope for our little girl to survive.
Let's cure childhood cancer together. Please donate now.
If you have to cut, pack, drive, scout, weld, stack, feed, pull, load, tow, drop, and haul all in a single day, then you just have to get in the seat of the new John Deere Gator XUV. Learn more at your John Deere dealer.
Someone needs to customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Wait, there's an elevator?
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Today, hundreds of flight delays are hampering travelers looking to get a late start or an early return on their Labor Day weekend. Large parts of the South under threat of rain and thunderstorms. This is today, including parts of Texas, which could see flash flooding. But anyone who managed to overcome yesterday's travel woes are enjoying some well-earned sunshine while they can, as we can see folks doing in New Smyrna Beach in Florida. Joining me now from Montrose Harbor in Chicago is NBC's Adrian Broaddus. So looks nice there. Wind blowing, nice little breeze going. Are people enjoying their day off?
They are, Alex. So many are taking advantage of this last taste of summer to soak up the summer sun. We've seen people out on their boats, fishing, biking, walking in the area with their families, you name it. Right now, for those who are traveling, there are about 1,500 delays. We're talking about airplane travel, planes coming into and going out of the U.S. And Chicago, we've seen so many people here at the lake. It is among one of the top travel destinations. Not only Chicago, we're in good company. Some other cities include New York, Las Vegas, as well as parts of Alaska. Meanwhile, we did speak to one gentleman who flew in. He's not looking forward to the travel headache tomorrow, but he says he's going to do what he can today to relax and unwind. Take a listen.
I think it's not only like a great time of year just in terms of weather-wise, but it's also a lot of resets before end of the summer, willing to get back into work, and it's kind of like a last hurrah. A lot of people seem to be available, and they kind of get that on the calendar knowing that this is our last time to do it. So I just feel that there's a reason why everyone's out and about. Great vibes all around.
And you can feel that energy. AAA estimates travel this year compared to last year is up by nearly 9%. And we're talking about domestic travel. So that includes cruises, flights, and hotel stays as well. We do want to leave you with one warning from the National Weather Service, and that's for folks who were planning to take advantage of the Lake Michigan. The National Weather Service says potentially deadly swimming conditions will develop at southern portions of Lake Michigan beaches, and that includes here in Chicago. So if you find yourself in the water,
I didn't love it before. I love it now.
And now there's big news. We're introducing the Skin Revitalizing Tool, specially designed to amplify the power of Crepe Erase.
This is the Skin Revitalizing Tool. It is new and it is free. Yes, you heard me right. It's free when you get the products.
Crepe Erase is already an incredible deal at only $49.95. But when you order today, we'll send you the Skin Revitalizing Tool, a $129 value free.
I mean, it's like having a spa in your hand.
And you'll also receive our luxurious neck repair treatment, a $49 value, free.
Since using Crepe Erase, the skin on my neck looks airbrushed. I love it.
These two incredible bonuses are valued together at $178, but they're our free gift to you.
Crepe Erase is something I recommend to my patients because it works.
Don't wait. Get all this, a $247 value for only $49.95, plus free shipping.
If you're not reveling in your younger looking soft and sexy skin, just return the bottles, even if they're used up and empty, and we'll give you your money back.
This is a limited time offer that will not last. Scan the QR code, call, or go to crepeerase.com and order right now.
I knew it. I thought something is different about my man.
It's Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew?
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew. Blue Chew. You've done it again.
Do you have a box of videotapes, film reels, or photos that are degrading?
Legacy Box professionally converts them to DVDs, thumb drive, or the cloud.
Legacy Box is simple and safe, with over 1 million satisfied customers.
Visit legacybox.com.
Get this thing off of me! You still haven't broken up with bad bras and gone to honeylove.com? Take your current torture device of a bra. It in no way fits your body, and the underwire stabs me constantly. Not anymore, thanks to Honeylove. Wow, there's no spillage and no gap. And there's no underwire. Don't take it from me. Look at all these 5-star reviews. Women everywhere are breaking up with bad bras.
Shop the Labor Day sale. Offer ends September 2nd.
My gosh, how good is that? I love how light it feels. It's not heavy, it's not cakey. I feel like I'm not wearing any makeup at all. Most liquid foundations usually sit in the fine lines and pores. It makes them more visible and it feels so heavy on the skin. This baked powder foundation has velvety and creamy texture with light to medium long-lasting coverage. I don't see any other reason to try any other makeup foundation ever.
Now today's other top stories. Moscow says it shot down more than 150 drones overnight after Ukraine launched a new attack on Russia's infrastructure. Russia responded with a missile attack on the Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. Officials say dozens were wounded, including 5 children. The mother of San Francisco 49ers rookie Ricky Pearsall says he's in good spirits after being shot during an attempted robbery. It happened Saturday afternoon in San Francisco's popular Union Square. Pearsall was shot in the chest. His mother says that bullet missed his vital organs. The suspect is in custody. More than 10,000 hotel workers across the country are now on strike this busy Labor Day weekend. The strikes involve mostly Hyatt, Marriott, and Hilton hotels, and they will last about 3 days. The workers' union say they want higher pay, increased staffing, and reduced workloads. In just moments, a day of heartbreak and protest in Israel after 6 dead hostages are recovered in Gaza. Good day to all of you from MSNBC World Headquarters here in New York. Welcome, everyone, to Alex Witt Reports. We begin this hour with breaking news. Protests across Israel now spilling into the streets in outrage over the 6 hostages killed by Hamas in Gaza. Many Israelis putting the blame for their deaths squarely on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whom they accuse of failing to strike a ceasefire deal. We've got a number of reporters in place covering all the latest developments for us. Up first, we go to NBC's Matt Bradley in Tel Aviv for us. So, Matt, it's been very loud behind you. There were thousands upon thousands in that square in Tel Aviv. Where are these protesters now? Out in the streets, some of them.